Does anybody have any open questions? We just started yesterday the select kind of operation from DB. Are you able to establish the connection? Anybody facing an issue? So hope you install the software, at least the MySQL or whatever the software, guys. If you are already familiar with any other database, you can go ahead and work on it. So I'll guide you accordingly. So if you are facing any issue while installation for the MySQL, please let me know, guys. We'll connect one-to-one and so we'll install accordingly. I told one more option. So there is a online feature as well, right? So you can create an account. There is a 30 days trial account is there, guys. We can just create it and then we can interact with this online as well. I'll show you today as well. So how to interact this one, how to create a table if you have a question. So it's a complete GUI actually. You can just create a table. You can just add the data, all these things. Let's see. So hope you're good regarding yesterday's session. So what we'll do some kind of a working session, guys, so that you'll try to familiar with the database. So then we'll start the next level of operations. Okay. So what we'll do, so we had the installation of MySQL and all, right? So here we'll try to do some kind of a where condition query. Yesterday we just select the data and then the display in the browser, right? We'll try to execute some kind of a where condition. So we'll start from here actually. Okay. So here I have a table called employees. Yesterday we tried to display entire the data, right? Employees data. What I'm trying to do it here, the backend itself, I'm trying to executing select query here along with the where condition here, where last name equal to the name here. You can see it here. The result is Mule 123. Let me try to show the table as well, entire table. So hope you guys are at least basic queries required for this, guys. So try to know that if you don't know the basic queries of the DBMS. So here I have one record, guys. You can see here first name, last name. So what I'm trying to do it here. So based on the last name, I'm trying to fetch that. Okay, so here you can see that first name is this. Based on the last name, I'm trying to fetch the first name. Okay, so the expectation is here, the use case from the user perspective. So they will send a query parameter. Okay, so called the last name. Okay, so I'll give the last name called so whatever the last name here. This I'm putting here. So from the consumer perspective, you will expect a username. So once we'll receive the username, so you have to apply the where condition, the part of the Mule itself. Okay, so you pass the where condition. So then you will, it might be single record or multiple records with the matching to this last name, the bucket, right? So you have to display entire records, the matching with this last name. Okay, so can we start? So wherever yesterday we created, right? Same way you can try to create the one more flow with the different operation, guys. Okay, so try to drag and drop that the listener. Can you start the one by one component I clearly explain? So try to drag and drop the listener. So one more thing I'm trying to highlight here. So if you see here in the POC, there are multiple listeners out there, right? But eventually we should always have one listener. So entire project should have a one listener, that we already aware about that. So we saw that part of the RAML specification, what we implemented, right? Basic RAML implementation. So that time we saw that only one listener will be there. API get router will be route to that accordingly based on the path name. Okay, so but don't get confused here. So here I created a multiple listeners. So this is not the real, the real use case always should be one listener along with a API get router. Okay, so let's get started with the first thing, the listener. make it the dynamic, guys. Don't hard code anywhere else. We'll see the real the environment specific or externalization part of here actually. Even earlier also we discussed only the HTTP listener externalization, but here we'll see what we'll do along with this use case. Okay, so first we'll connect with the local dot properties. You can put it as a dev dot properties. Okay, so which is pointing to your local. Your local already MySQL is there, right? We'll try to interact with the, so you can keep it whatever that your local properties, put it into the dev dot properties. The next thing is you can just put it as a you can just put it as a prod dot properties to understand the use case. Prod dot properties. So as I said, can you create a table here, the PHP admin online MySQL, right? Whenever I just point to the prod, so your application should interact with that online MySQL and fetch the data, whatever the table you created. So it should fetch the data. Whenever I point to the dev dot properties, so then it should point to your local database, then fetch the data from the, so the local database, right? The make sure the table should be same, so right here. Usually how it will happen, so once you done your the local environment, we point to the dev or else other QA environment or else staging environment, the production accordingly, right? Same table, same the schema, whatever we expected should be there, all the environments, so that the only properties change should required from our end, so that it will try to interact with that. So where we have to change the properties. So if you guys remember, so wherever we add that the global elements, under that there is a configuration property. So here we have to make it, right? If I point to the dev dot properties, it point to the local environment. If I point to the prod dot properties, it should point to the online MySQL. Okay, so but so in your local you have to do manually, right? So you have to do update here dev dot properties or else the prod dot properties. But whereas in cloud, if you guys remember, we have the multiple environments, right? So accordingly we have to point it. Okay, so it's a single one-time job actually. Once you logged in the sandbox or design, these are the environments in free account, right? If you point to the design, if you point to the, if you log in into the design or if you log in into the sandbox, right? So one time job, you have to point to that in settings.xml. I'll show you that one more time. So we have to point to that appropriate property file. Okay, so right now, so let's start. So to fetch the information from local database as well as online. Can we start? Hope everybody install that MySQL. Please let me know if you're facing any issues, guys. Otherwise, you can't able to do these examples. Retrieve data. I'm just putting retrieve data. What you have to do is we have to put it as a dynamic, guys. Let's do it keep it as a dynamic, right? Where do we have to add it? We have to add into the property file, right? HTTP dot path dot. I'm just putting here as well retrieve. Okay. So what you have to do is we'll take this one. I'm just keeping dynamically here. Slash also I put it there, guys. You just put it dollar http dot path dot retrieve, whatever the key you kept there. So same key you have to copy paste here. Okay. Component is I'm just drag and drop the select only, guys. Okay, so what I'm doing, I already created, right? I'm just choosing the database config, guys. You might create already. So in the drop down, it will show clearly. Just choose that. So let me open that one, whatever the configuration I put it. I'm just trying to edit it. So you know how to add this, the MySQL JDBC driver, right? So here is the dependency, how to add the dependency. To make sure, yesterday we saw that there is the deprecation, the whatever that version issue, right? So we'll accordingly we have to make sure the whatever that the connector you drag and drop it, appropriate version you will get to add that one here. So once you add it here, so it will add into the bomb.xml as well, or else vice versa, you can do it. And the next thing is whatever the properties you kept into the inside external property file, right? Same thing, I just put it that all the keys here, database host, database.port, database.user, the password, and the database name. So let me open that one. So here is the thing, database.host, port, user, password, name, right? This is the database configuration. Okay, if you're doing first time, just try to, I'll show you how to create a property file here. New, go to file, and then put it some, just put in prod actually, prod dot properties. Extension should be properties. I just create a prod dot properties. So let me take it online database info and then put it here. Prod dot properties. So whatever the key you are going to add it, right? Same key should be available in all the environment, guys. The make sure whenever you're trying to add it, you should add into all the properties. Otherwise, you know, see, while deploying itself, it will get failed if the property is not available or key is not available. Okay, I'm ready with the property file. Dev.properties is there. The one more property, Mule artifact.property is there. And then there is a prod.properties there. So this is my local. So you can see it here, localhost and the port number of whatever you, while installation time, whatever the password you kept it, same password you have to maintain. Observe here, guys, it's open to all the password, right? Eventually it should not. The sensitive data, whatever the sensitive data, it should be deprecated. Sorry, it should be encrypted. Okay, we'll do that one as well. So how to encrypt the properties and then how to read into your flow. All the sensitive data, it might be SSN details, right? It might be passwords. So all the sensitive data, it should be encrypted, guys. We'll see that one. We need to add the plugin to your Anypoint Studio and encrypt it accordingly. So we'll see that. So the next one is, here is my production.properties. Here you can see that. Go to your online, the PHP admin or online the MySQL, right? So here is the overview option, guys. Overview option. Here you can see that host details, the port details, and then you can see that username and then password. All these things here you can see. You can just simply copy it and then put it here. But so in real time, so when you are in a project, so this information shared by the DBA guy, whoever working on the DBA side, right? They will share that information. Okay. So for the production.properties, if you created an account inside this sqlcluster.com, this is online MySQL. If you created already, there is an overview option. So click that overview menu item or sidebar. So copy paste this one. There is a host, port, whatever the information required by your connector, right? You can see that host. If you observe here, so we should not change the keys. The values get changed, right? If I point to the any environment here, our application should work. And that is the expectation. So here, whatever the keys you are keeping here, same keys you can see that the online MySQL as well. Host, port, user, password, name, and the remaining. So this is for your coding perspective. Okay. So this is our drag and drop the select operation here. Okay. So right now where I pointed. So here you can see the configuration properties. I just pointed to the dev.properties here, right? You can just click the test connectivity, both the test connectivity we will see. Okay, here you can see the test connection successful. Let's point to the other one, right? It's a prod.properties, right? Let's point to the prod.properties, configuration properties. There are two places I said, guys. There is a global property as well. You can point to there as well. You can change there as well. I just point to the configuration property itself. So here's my prod.properties. You can just click here. There is a browse option you can see. Just click here. You can search for the prod.properties as well. Or else you can select it if you can able to see. Right. I'm just clicking here. So now my application is pointed to the online MySQL. Right. Let's see the connectivity. Okay, so here you can see I can able to establish the connection in prod as well. Okay, let's get to the dev properties. Once we're done, we'll point to the production. I'm just pointing to the dev back. So I'm just saving that whatever the changes I made it, I'm just saving. Okay, so let's continue the querying part here. So till that the configuration everybody done, right? So create a properties file and then create a configuration accordingly. Put it that entire configuration outside the code, that is external properties file. Okay, and click the test connectivity. So hope everybody done these steps. Anybody facing any issue, guys, are able to establish the connection? Okay, I think we are good. So let's take the query. So yeah,
I'm facing problem. I'm getting error. Could not obtain connection from data source.
Which one? In your local or else the point?
Local only.
Okay. So I think it's something wrong with your the configuration actually. Can you just see the details? Actually, there is a details it will show, right? Copy paste into the Notepad++ and see.
Yeah, I was seeing that actually host wise it is 0.0 because it will create the JDBC URI. So in that URL it is coming 0.0.0.0 and 3306 port.
Just put it localhost. No? See, eventually, or else what you can do is instead of 00, right? Instead of 00.
It is saying this laptop is not allowed to connect to this MySQL server.
Correct. So instead of that zeros, right? You can just put it like this: 127.0.0.1. Can you keep it?
Okay, I will try once.
Let me test from my side as well. This one as well, it's nothing but a local host, guys. Let me
Yes.
just test. So we are pointing configuration dev only.
Yeah, it worked out.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
So anybody else facing an issue, guys?
And one more help, Venkat.
Yeah.
Can you share this DB's production DB's details also, so that we can connect to same thing for testing?
But don't misuse actually. It's for other classes as well actually. Just retrieve the data.
Okay.
I'm just putting this as this in the chat, guys.
Thanks, Venkat.
Now you can use it, but so make sure create an account. It's no practice purpose. You can use it. Now we are just keeping select query. Going forward, you are keeping update, delete, all these things. Okay. So anybody else facing an issue, guys, you can just keep it on 27.0.01 as well. But eventually, when you point to the production, right, when you try to deploy into the cloud, it should be proper the remote host actually. Otherwise, from cloud to in your local machine, it should not connect until unless you have a static IP. Okay. So let's go to the query part. So we done the configuration part. Okay. See the query here. So what is our expectation? Whatever the last name you are getting, that last name you have to pass it dynamically to your query, so that it should retrieve that the whatever the matching first names you have to retrieve based on this last name. See the query, guys. Select first name from employees where last name equal this. Right in the bottom, you can see we have to fulfill this last name. Actually, this is a syntax. Wherever you want to pass dynamic values, right, you have to pass that the parameters accordingly. I'm just taking this one. So here we are expecting one dynamic parameter, which is nothing but a last name, right? So that last name we are expecting from the query parameter from the user perspective, right? So here you can see that attributes dot query param dot last name. We are already familiar with this syntax. From the attributes, we are trying to fetch it and then assign to the last name. Okay. And then this last name, observe here, this last name should match here. Here, if you see from the user perspective, we are expecting a last name, N is small here. But here, so we are keeping it as a capital N here. And then whatever the key here, that key should match here. And then the data is coming from here, and then we are assigning here. From here, your query will get read, and then it will get executed. So this is the way you have to pass that the input parameters. Okay. So make sure this the literal mode you have to, the expression mode you have to enable it, guys. Observe here. So now I just put it as a just square bracket and this flower brackets. Now just go and look into that the configuration.xml, how it will generate in the backend. So try to compare this way, guys. As I said, so going forward, we are directly working on the XML side itself, right? So that you should aware about it, how the code is generated in the backend. So we just put it within flower brackets, right? So the last name equal attributes dot query params dot the last name. But if you see some C data, square bracket, all these things generated by the system itself, right? So make sure we have to enable that the expression mode. Click that switch to literal mode. Switch to. It should enable, guys. Otherwise, it will go entire thing. It will go as a static actually instead of dynamic. Okay, are we good? The query part. Let me just put it in the chart if you need some reference. Just put that query as well as input parameters. Above one is query, next one is input parameter. So whatever the table you created, you try to play with that table only, guys. You don't need to use this employees table. Okay, I'm done with my query. Let's put as usual. So use the transformation and try to convert that Java into JSON format. Just drag and drop that transformation. Okay. Hope you're done. Let me try to deploy this application. It's getting deployed. So what we have to do is, so we have to pass that the query parameter. I'm just putting the breakpoint here. Let's take whatever the path you get there. So which is from dev.properties, right? HTTP host. Whatever the path you get there, same path you have to put it here. And then last name, right? We have to pass the query parameter last name equal. I'll just pass that same thing so that it will match. Okay. I hit the request. I got a request here. So just for checking purpose, go and check that your attributes are able to get that query parameter or not. So here you can see that I'm able to see the last name here. So click next step. So see the size. So you can see one record here, right? So this is one record. The first name is Mule123, based on that last name. Okay, it might match the multiple records as well. If you have, it will try to fetch entire record. We can see the size as well, size 1, right? You can see that record. Are you guys done? If we're done, let's point to the production. I'm just changing that prod here, properties. So here, try to understand, I'm just doing manual change, but once you deploy into the cloud, as I said, each environment, there is isolation, right? Separate environments we have. There is a one-time job when you're trying to deploy it, so you don't need to change every time actually. So once we'll while deploying time itself, you'll keep an env equal to dev or env equal design, env equal to prod. That's it. So every time when you try to deploy it, it will point to the appropriate properties file automatically. Okay. I'm just saving the change. So you should deploy this change, guys. Otherwise, redeployment required. Otherwise, it will not impact. Let me try to deploy in a debug mode again. Okay. So here you can see that the table name is completely different here, the test, right? So in my local is an employees table. Let's see what kind of error it will give, and then accordingly we'll update that table name as well. Still deploying. Okay, let's get deployed. Requesting same thing again. Observe here, guys. Let's see the error, what error it is showing. See how the error handling here, you can see clearly. There is an error is an object here. You can see clearly it's saying like the company dot employees does not exist. See, error type, this is the main thing actually, bad SQL syntax. Right. So here you can see the detailed description, what it is the root cause for that. What we have to do it. Let me just change that. So as I said, right, table should be common, guys. We should not touch your code. So as per the explanation purpose, I just put it here. What I'm trying to do it, select we'll do star from test. That's the table name here, right? Select star from test. Okay. So then this particular query not required any input parameters. I'm just disabling this one. No need to keep this one as well. I'm just removing it. I think I just put it only query. Saving this. See now the debugger is stopped here. Now you have to click F8, or else you have to stop it actually. Once you stop it, then you have to remove that one. Okay. I'm trying to deploy one more time. If you want to keep any the where condition, first we can check in the backend side, guys. So check in the backend side. If it is working, so then I can put it same thing in the Mule side. Still deploying. Seems there are some restrictions are there here. Right, it's get deployed. Let me try to hit the request now. Anyway, here query parameter also not required, right? Let me just remove that one. Hit the request. Here you can see that in my online MySQL, I have 4 records are there, right? Same 4 records should populate. Here you can see size 4. I'm just clicking F8 here. Here you can see that 4 records. Okay. Very good, guys. Everybody done this too. Okay. So please let me know if you are facing any issue. So if you guys done, let's go for insert operation, guys.
Can I request you to once open the transform message once?
Yeah, just convert into the JSON format.
Json.
Drag and drop it.
Okay. Only directly payload URL.
Just put the payload. Whatever the payload you are getting, just typecast to the JSON format.
Okay, fine. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So let's target the insert operation, guys. Let's see the use case. So right now we just retrieve the information, whatever the data is available in the database, right? The expectation in the insert here from the postman, I'll just put it as a postman has nothing but our client here, our consumer, right? So here we have to pass the payload. So we'll target one payload now. So we'll see the bulk insert also we are going to discuss. That time we'll see the bulk records. Okay, so the payload you are expecting, whenever you click that send button, you should receive that the entire data, which is nothing but a payload. Apart from the MuleSoft, what we have to do is we have to do that DB insert operation, but so the connection perspective, everything is changed. Only the query you are going to change here. Okay. So what you have to do is, so observe here. So this is a third-party system. Think like this. So right now it's in our local actually, but eventually some of the third party is trying to have their own interface. From the interface, they'll try to end user might be simply they will log into that one, and then they'll try to fulfill that information. It might be order, it might be something else, right? They will fill that all the information and they will click the submit button. So the MuleSoft should receive that info, right? So here is the DB actually. So think like this, our PHP, or I just put it like a online MySQL here. Eventually record should be available in the, right now we have a 4 records, right? So it should ingest the 5th record. Okay, so online MySQL. So once you receive the data, right? So whatever the fields you are seeing here, for example, in our database, the fields are look like this: name, designation, salary, address, right? But in the front end, or else whoever using that, whoever that the consuming our API, right? They might have a separate fields, right? So in case of designation, they might put it as a EMP underscore designation, EMP underscore name, EMP underscore salary, right? Obviously, it's a different vendors. They follow their own naming conventions, right? That's the reason here. Once they receive the data, what you have to do is the part of the MuleSoft itself, the before going to ingest, before going to insert into DB, we have to do transformation. We'll try to introduce the transformation also here. So the transformation. So what you have to do is we have to do the one-to-one mapping. Okay. For example, as I said, you are getting input as a EMP underscore name, but in your DB side, we have a just name, right? So eventually how it is look like, the left side should be the part of the data wave component or transformation, name equal, right? The payload dot emp underscore name. So like that, you have to put it all the required properties, required columns, salary equal payload dot emp underscore salary. So that how your DB is expecting that you have to prepare the part of the data wave component, right? And then try to ingest into the DB. Observe here what DB format is expecting. DB is always expecting a Java format. Actually, you have to prepare that, and then you have to ingest to that. And JSON also allowing, actually you have to prepare that, and then you have to ingest it. Whether it's a Java. So usually for bulk insert, it will expect a Java. So you can prepare a JSON as well if it is a single record, and then it will get ingested. So you have to transform it, and then you have to ingest it. Then data should be available in the MySQL. Okay, is that clear? So irrespective of whatever the data you are getting, right? So you have to take it, you have to transform it, and then you have to ingest it. Okay, this is a use case, guys. So let's get started. So we already familiar with how to receive the data, right? So we already see that how to take the data dynamically, right? Part of the input parameters, you have to read that, and then you have to assign to that appropriate column name, right? Same way here as well. So using input parameters, you have to read that all the 4 fields, and then you have to assign to your query. Okay, so here is a select query. The only the change is the query should be insert. Okay, can we start? So hope everybody cleared this use case. Get the data from the consumer, transform it, try to do insert query along with the input parameters, and then finally record should be available either in your local or online MySQL. Okay, let's target local. So we have an employee table here, right? So right now it's one record is there. We'll try to insert one more record. Okay. So let me just show you that what I did in POC, so that you can try yourself, guys, with the different records. Right, you can pass it and you can try it. So as usual, so the first you have to drag and drop the listener, right? So I just put it as a insert. You can make it a dynamic, guys, and stuff. That's static here. The next step is we have to do the transformation. Sometimes it depends, guys. Sometimes maybe columns get matched as well, right? So here as well name. So here also name, right? It depends. Okay, but who will share this mapping sheet? Somebody onshore coordinator or somebody whoever uh, the analyst, right? The business analyst, right? They might interact with closely the client, and then they will get that entire sheet actually, right? Or else our Scrum Master, they will get it and they will share us. So that accordingly you have to map it, right? Because we don't know what is the equivalent field to this DB, right? It might be naming convention match so that I can map it, but it should be different systems. We don't know, so that somebody should be there to share that entire sheet, or else we'll coordinate accordingly the client, and then we have to get that the mapping sheet, or else usually nowadays everything expected from us, right? So we have to interact with, and then we have to prepare a sheet before taking to this particular story, the part of the agile, right? So you might have some kind of a sprint zero kind of thing, right? So definition of ready, definition of done kind of thing, devo or preparation, right? That time you have to prepare that sheet, and then you have to attach your story, so that whoever working on your story, that particular user story, they will look into it accordingly, they will map it. Okay, so hope you guys are clear. So the next step is we have to transform it, right? Let me just open my transformation. So you can search for the transform data wave or data mapper, whatever you search here. Just search for the data mapper. I can see the data wave here. Drag and drop it here. Right. So here you can see that. So whatever the JSON we are getting, whatever the payload you are getting, right? You just read that accordingly. Let me just show you that my payload, what I'm passing. So let's open the Postman. So we can't do through uh, the browser, guys, this particular request, because the server is expecting the data, right? Or else MuleSoft is expecting some data. Through browser we can't able to get the data, right? We need some tools, right? Eventually the data coming from the client, but in this case, so we are getting from the Postman, or else there is a REST API client, right? The advanced REST API client you can use. So all these things you can use as an API tool. Let me search my history. Go to history. So here is my body. Number, date of birth, first name, last name, gender, hire date. These are the columns in my database. Here you can see the number, date of birth, first name, last name, gender, hire date. Okay. So once we receive the data, what you have to do is, so the payload dot number, payload dot DOB. Observe here, guys, one more thing. Based on the database side, right? So if you see the description of this particular table, PESC, observe here, there is a primary key, number is a primary key, date of birth is a date, remaining varchars, there is a gender is a enum, and then high date is a date, right? Make sure the part of the transformation, it's not only the mapping, right? If you see here, I'm just mapping whatever the data I'm getting, I'm just mapping to the left side. The left side is the DB columns, the right side is what you're getting input, right? So the transformation is not only the just mapping one to one. The part of the transformation, there is a typecasting, there is a lookup feature, right? There is a iteration. Everything should come under transformation. Okay. So if you see here, the DOB is expecting as a the date column in the DB. But if you see here, I'm just passing in within a double quotes, which is nothing but a string, right? But my DB or the backend system or target system is expecting date. So as a mule guy, as a middleware guy, you should take a responsibility, right? To convert into the date, to convert into the string, right? As date, as string, right? These are all the keywords in the mule. Okay, so we'll see the lookup features as well. Many features are the transformation. So this is the just starting only transformation. So as date, as string, as date, as number, right? Sometimes if you get a number as a string, the backend is expecting as a number, right? Integer or float or real values. Accordingly, you have to do typecasting. So once we done this step, let's look into the insert query. Insert into employees. And then what all the columns are there? That columns you can keep it for the order perspective. And the next one is the previously we done only one parameter as a dynamic, right? Now we have so 6 parameters. I think 7. Yeah, total 6 parameters we can see. So that you can expect from the input properties file dynamically. So you can see it here, payload.number, payload.dob, payload.first name, last name, hide it. So whatever the key you are keeping here, that should match here. And the syntax here, colon followed by that key, right? So these columns are DB, and then these what you mention here, which is nothing but the part of input parameter keys. This is your input, what you're getting from your the previous transformation it will give, right? From there you are trying to get it. Okay. Once we done, the data get ingested. Let me just quickly show you guys so that you can try it. Let me point to that dev.properties. Okay, so I'm just stopping my changes. Stop that the deployment, previous deployment. Let me try to deploy freshly. Put a debugger here.
So, Meanwhile, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so in the transformation message you showed us actually the typecasting everything, right? You just map that the payload, whatever we are getting to that as a date or something, right? So here actually, so then why? But whereas in the insert statement actually we are not using, right? So how it's going to happen actually? So there actually just directly using here, we are not mapping to any variable. Just we are saying actually DOB equal to payload.dob as a date. So then there actually again you are using payload.dob something like that, right? It's automatically converts to DOB or date format, or how is it going to?
Correct, actually. This transformation it will give a date format. Once you've done this, so it will. So what we are expecting from the transformation is how the DB is expecting that conversion you are doing here. You don't need to do next level anything. So you have to read these columns. Left side columns are there. No? The left side columns you have to read into the part of the your insert query. Left side keys.
Right, but in the insert statement, right? Again, you mapped that payload dot something like that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So what you can do is, for example, if you want to do that directly here, right? Why I'm just introducing that the transformation here. So right now we are getting only one record, right? So think like this: you are getting the more than one record. So there is an iteration required, right? Your transformation required to take to iterate it one by one record and then prepare that how the DB is expecting, right? So this directly, whatever the payload.number, payload.dob, we can do here as well, right? We can skip the transformation. You can skip the transformation and then you can put it directly here, right? But going forward, so you'll get the more than one record, and then think like in a broad way. For example, here, whatever the input I'm getting, from the input, I can able to see directly the DOB or directly first name or directly last name. So think like this, the consumer is not sending this particular last name, he is not sending. So some insufficient data he is sending. So what he's saying, so instead of expecting from me, you can interact with some third-party system, or else, so the based on the existing data. So for example, think like this here, instead of sending a first name, you simply send a name. But in your DB is expecting a first name and last name segregated, right? But from input, you are getting a simply name. There is a customization is required, right? As a Mule guy, you should split that one. You have to prepare a first name and the last name. So if it is the case, we need to do some customization. We need to do on the fly. We have to do some kind of a lookup, and then we have to assign the data, right? So these kind of things, this transformation will help us actually. Is that clear?
Yeah, and one more thing actually in the date, right? We just mentioned as date, but format, do we have to mention the format specific
Yes.
actually?
So just now the DB guy is expecting simple, let me just show you simple date format, right? Without timestamp and all, right? So he's expecting like this, right? So just DDYYMM format. Yes. So if he's expecting a timestamp, all these things, yes, we can put it as a as string, whatever that format, right? Whatever that format, right? We can just put it actually format. Okay. So whatever the format they're expecting, that format we have to prepare it and we have to send it. Yes, format we have to keep. Okay. I think I have one more class, guys. So that's all for today. We'll see the execution tomorrow. Meanwhile, you can try, guys, whatever that use case, right? Just go through the recording. I shown you that the configuration as well clearly. Just try to work on this one. So try in your local, same way try in your the online MySQL as well. Okay. So what you can do is instead of different table names, make it a same name or same table name in your local and online MySQL as well, so that you don't need to touch base your code every time. You just change that the properties file. Okay, so that's all for today, guys. If you don't have any question, we will wind up. Okay.
Thanks, Venkat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.